Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. And as a reminder, it is recording, so everyone should have received the recording notification before we got started. But once again, welcome to our GCSU Alumni Lifelong Learning Series. My name is Nadira Mayweather, and I'm our Director of Alumni Relations. And we're super excited to have our guests today be Adam Hammond, who's one of our beloved alum, who's gone off to do amazing things. And Angela's going to tell you more about him in a second. But the topic for today is navigating challenges and opportunities that come with career changes. This is part 3 of a series that we've done, and we're so excited that you signed on today. And this is a partnership between the Office of Alumni Engagement and our School of Continuing and Professional Studies as a way to keep our alumni engaged and continue to offer educational opportunities and feature our alumni and soon to come our faculty in sharing their expertise and knowledge in different areas. So I'll hand it over to Angela Crisco, who's our partner on this venture.
Thank you, Nadira, and welcome everyone. We are so excited to have Adam Hammond here today. Adam currently serves as the Executive Director for the Georgia 4-H Foundation. He leads his team in supporting more than 173,000 4-Hers in all 159 Georgia counties. He graduated from Georgia College and State University in 2008 with a major in political science and a minor in mass communication. He spent the first part of his career as a morning news anchor in Memphis, Tennessee, Denver, and then in Nashville. As a former Georgia 4-Her, his passion has always been around leadership and youth development, and his experience as a former Georgia 4-Her helped him reach his goals in broadcasting, and he hopes to provide similar workforce development opportunities for youth in Georgia. He is passionate about community involvement and is currently running for the Board of Education in Oconee County. The election is May 21st, so please help me welcome Adam Hammond.
I'm so excited to do this, and I'm so grateful for this opportunity and, just to be a part of this series. And I know you guys are getting out the word about all these different aspects and areas that we're talking about. And I'm also excited about the size of this group right now until the replay, because I really hope we'll be able to have some back and forth. So if you guys have ideas or feedback, let's have a conversation around it, because I think that's going to be a lot more fun and interesting than me just, talking for an hour. So let's talk together. Let's have a conversation. I'm going to share my screen and go through a slide deck that I put together. But really, this deck is just to prompt the conversation that I'm talking about and to be sort of a visual aid around some of the ideas I want to share. And, I think it was last month or the month before that, the speaker that did this did it on burnout. So and it was so interesting. I loved it. I thought it was great. And there's a loose connection to this, because we're going to talk about that sort of as it relates to career change and some things around that. So when Angela first asked me to do this, I was so excited about the opportunity, and I didn't know exactly what I was going to talk about. So she suggested this topic, and I was like, what am I going to talk? I would love to talk to everybody, but I'm not an expert on anything, I don't think. So I can't talk about burnout like the psychologist last month did, because she was certainly a pro at that. But this was the suggestion, was navigating challenges and opportunities that come with career change. And that is something that I've experienced in my life, and I'm excited to share my perspective on that. And I never really thought about my close connection relationship with that topic, but I'm excited to talk about it and think about it as I put this presentation together, because I've experienced it, but I was able to successfully navigate it because of my experience as a Georgia College Bobcat. Because what we experienced in our education is all built around liberal arts. And because of that, we are equipped to take on all sorts of different challenges in our career, in our lives, socially, whatever the case may be. We have a little bit of a leg up on the competition because of our Georgia College experience. So I'm excited to share more about that. And I want to start by just telling you a little bit about who I am and some background. And then I want to talk about my career journey, because that plays into the career change piece. And then we're going to talk about some of the different aspects as it relates to changing careers and maybe growing where you are. So I'm married to Lauren. That's our family in the top left. Lauren is also a Georgia College Bobcat. She graduated in 2009. She did graduate with a master's in mass comms. She focused on PR, and that's what she works in today. She works for an insurance agency doing marketing and PR. So she loves that, and that's been a direct carryover from her time at Georgia College. We have an 11-year-old daughter named Kenny. You see her right there, right outside the Hogwarts Express. We were just at Universal 2 weeks ago for spring break. It was awesome. We had the best time. I did not read Harry Potter. I'm one of the few, I know, but Kenny and my wife, big time Harry Potter people, so they were geeking out the whole time, and it was great. We had a good time doing that. And it's been a long time it feels like a long time since the Disney princess phase. When she was 5, we were at Disney World and she was all excited about, Rapunzel and all the different people. But it was cool to see her just as excited this time about Harry Potter and Hogwarts and all that kind of stuff. So it's really cool to see her grow up, and we're getting ready for middle school next year. So, as I mentioned, we got cheerleading tryouts today. So we're all a little stressed out. It's not the word I'm going to use, but I'm anxious, and I'm trying not to be anxious because I know she's got to be. So, it's an exciting time for our family. We do live in Oconee County. I'm an 8th generation Oconee Countyan, and that part of my life is going to come up a little later in this talk. So I'm not going to get too much more into that, but that's a big part of who I am. And my wife and I are pretty involved in the community in different ways. I'm in the Rotary Club here. I'm on the OARC board, which is like our food pantry. We fight insecurity by sending home about 200 backpacks full of food with children every weekend. They're food insecure. There's a homelessness issue that we address with some of our efforts. I'm in the Farmland Preservation Committee in Oconee. It's a pretty innovative way to preserve some of our historically farmland areas, and that's taken on a lot of steam. And my wife and I did Leadership Georgia this past year, and we were able to connect with couples from all around the state and really experience cities and counties and regions and that we never would have experienced otherwise in a unique way all across our state, and see some things that they've done in their areas that have been successful and some things that maybe haven't been as successful. And it's been a great learning opportunity through that as well. You see sorry, I had to do it in my Georgia College presentation, but you see the Sanford Stadium picture down there at the bottom because we have season tickets. That's our spot. We've been there every game. But in how many weeks? 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'm going to graduate with my master's from UGA. So I'm very excited about that. That's between the school board, as Angela mentioned, you see the sign, and my master's. It's a crazy time, but it's very exciting and I'm enjoying it. So, just trying to finish out the spring strong, and I'm getting my master's in nonprofit management and leadership. And, that just is so connected to what I do every single day. And I've learned so much through that. So I want to talk a little bit about what I do briefly. I'm the executive director of the Georgia 4-H Foundation. We are the largest youth development organization in the state. We serve those 173,000 that Angela mentioned, and we do that through 4 different pillar areas. That's agriculture, STEM, health and wellness, and civic engagement. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about this in my career section, so I'm not going to get into that, but I just wanted to hit that first so you know who I am and what I do. But one of the biggest things is I'm a Bobcat. I'm a proud Bobcat. And so there I am, Bama bangs and all right there. But this is kind of a look back at being a student. I love, love, love being a Georgia College Bobcat. I grew up in Watkinsville, right outside of Athens. It takes probably 17 minutes to get to the heart of UGA's campus from where I grew up. With that being said, I did not want to go to Georgia because I just wanted to go away and experience a little bit of a smaller school and experience something outside of Athens. And, I went to Georgia College on a tour in the fall, and I knew that's exactly where I wanted to be. And I applied to Georgia. I got into Georgia. I chose to go to Georgia College over Georgia. And, I don't know how many people can say that, but I did. So I'm very proud of that fact. And, honestly, like a lot of people, I felt, well, I'll go there for a couple of years. I'll experience life away from home. I'll make a whole new set of friends because I won't know a lot of people here. And then I'll go back to Athens and finish up. Well, needless to say, like a lot of people, I got to Milledgeville, and that was not going to happen because I loved being in Milledgeville and at Georgia College. So I majored in political science, minored in mass comm. I was involved in some different things. I was in KA while I was there. I was a student ambassador, which honestly, every time a parent tells me their student is going to go to Georgia College, I say, all right, student ambassador program, they got to do it. I don't even know if it's the same as when we were there in Nadira, but that was a highlight for me. I loved being a student ambassador and giving the tours and, doing all that. I thought was just such a special thing as a student. You got to see the university from a completely different perspective, and I really enjoyed that. and also did the gym program, which do they still do that? Okay. So with the gym program, I'm a huge advocate for that. I was partnered with Willie Paulk, who's the president and CEO of the Dublin Lawrence Chamber of Commerce. And we sparked a friendship through that, with that, and it has carried through to today. I had lunch with her probably a year ago, and she's a very important person in my life. And I've learned so much about how to relate to people and how to deal with people. And things I learned from her then have really impacted what I do now in nonprofit management. Fundraising is a big part of what I do. And for a chamber, getting members, that's fundraising in a way. And I remember being with her on the job, and she was saying, you know, somebody told her no for something. They needed something. She said, they told me no, but I don't hear no. I hear not yet. And that's how I look at it. She told me that like 15 years ago. And I think of that all the time when I'm doing fundraising. It's not no, it's not yet. And that has rang true so many times. So that was really a great experience at Georgia College. I'm grateful for. And you see here on the bottom, that was my crew at, you know where that is. That's Golden Pantry, late night with a spicy chicken biscuit. So I just had to include, that's what I'm holding in my bag. So I had to include that because that just kind of summed up my fun at Georgia College.
I love that.
You have honor societies mentioned, but you also have to have a late night at Golden Pantry to show you're a well-rounded student, right? And then that picture on the side there, that's, you know, when our daughter, who's 11 now, was much younger, anytime we could, when we lived away and we lived around, we always tried to come, and we tried to visit George College, eat at the Brick, expose our daughter there. And I don't have it, but I have a picture of her as like a little toddler walking around the Bobcat Head. So I love that picture. And, you know, a couple of weeks ago, I took her out. It was after church one Sunday, and Lauren had something to do. So I was like, let's go somewhere. Let's go on an adventure. So we went to the Brick for lunch, and we're like walking around campus. And now she's old enough to like get it. So she knows we went to school there. She knows that's where her mom lives, you know, different things like that. She's like, so when can I apply to go here? And I was like, oh man, this is great. So I was doing one of my student ambassador tours for her. I was reliving a little bit. So I want to talk about chapter 1 of my career, because this feels a little self-serving to talk about my career in this way, and I don't want it to come across like this. I'm really just talking about my path to show you how this relates to career change. So when I went to Georgia College, I knew from the time I was 16 years old that I wanted to be a news anchor. I just knew that's what I wanted to do. My grandmother was a judge in Oconee County. My grandfather was a judge in Oconee County. They were elected judges. So I grew up seeing community service and public service from them, and going to the barbecues with them, and going to all the different meetings and Pilot Club and the Cattlemen's Association and all these things. And from that really showed me the importance of public service and what you do. Well, when I was 16 years old, September 11th happened, and I was actually sitting in a current issues class at my high school, Oconee County High School. And for all of us that are old enough to have experienced that, you know, working with 4-H now, I meet all these kids that weren't alive yet and all this, but for all of us, that was certainly a pivotal moment for our life, because it really just changed the way we viewed things and viewed the world and viewed our safety and security and the way we gather information. So, you know, I was like a lot of people, I was zoned into the news during that time, and I was totally, I was into it. I was like a news junkie from the time I was 16 years old. And I was like, that is how I'm going to make a difference. I've grown up my life seeing my grandparents make a difference in the community in this way. This is an area where I have a passion and where I can make a difference. So that was my initial spark to go into news. And when I came to Georgia College, I majored in what I majored in for those reasons. I did political science because I knew I could cover a lot of government and policy. I did mass comm because I knew that'd be a big part of it. And I got a job at Fox 24 in Macon, Georgia, when I was a junior in college. And I was a production assistant, and I did it all. I rolled the teleprompter, I did the studio camera, I wrote a little bit, you know, I did anything I could. I got paid a little bit of money. It covered my gas from Milledgeville to Macon, but I went every night. I mean, you saw my late night at Golden Pantry. I would go there, I'd come back to Milledgeville after the news, and then I'm like amped up, you know, ready to do the next phase of the night. But no, it was such a great learning experience. You talk about experiential learning. That was like hands-on opportunity that I got. So when I graduated, the news director there, she knew my work ethic. She knew that I was going to show up. I was going to try my hardest. I had the skill set with the writing skills and all those different things to do it. So I started there as a weekend reporter. I was there for about 3 years. And during that time, I moved from weekend reporter to evening anchor. And I loved it. I mean, Macon to me was just it was at that point in my life, it was so fun because I still had my now wife, girlfriend at the time was still in Milledgeville. So I was close by there. I could see friends there, but I was also creating a life in Macon. I was getting plugged in and I was getting to do a lot of different things there. So did that for 2 years. And when you work in the news business, it's all about market size. Market size goes from 1, which is New York, to like 2 something, which is Casper, Wyoming. You know, it's like the whole spectrum. Macon would have been one of those 1 something or other, 150. I don't even remember what it was, but it was up there. So the goal is for people in news, you want to work your way up. You want to get as high as you can. And for us, Atlanta is like number 8. It was. So Atlanta was a pretty big goal to try to get back to. And at the time, I thought that was something that I might want to do. But, you know, I set out later. I'm a big, you know, I make goals and I try to work toward them. So I knew I wanted to do a few things. I wanted to be a morning news anchor. I wanted to win an Emmy, and I wanted to work in Nashville. And I thought maybe I might come to Atlanta if, you know, but I wasn't so sure because I didn't want to live in Atlanta. And so you'll hear why those 3 goals were important at the end of this journey. But after about 3 years in Macon, we went to Memphis. I took that job out of like Grand Rapids, Michigan, and Austin, Texas. I'm kind of crazy that I passed that one up, but Memphis was just the right fit. And I went there to be a reporter, learned so much. I was in the field. I covered some really crazy stories that I still see on Dateline pop up every now and then, because Memphis is just, you know, it's an awesome place. But if you've been there, it's almost like an island. It's in the Delta right there, Arkansas, Mississippi, Tennessee, and there's not a lot around it. You go from like the next big cities are like Chicago or St. Louis to the north, and then New Orleans really to the south, and then Nashville's close to the east, but then to the west, you can go a long way. There's really not a big city. So it's kind of like an oasis for people. They're there. So it's its own world, and a lot of stuff happens. And I loved my time in Memphis. We were there for about 6 years. That's where our daughter was born. So, you know, when people ask Lauren and I where we're from, we're like, oh, we're from Watkinsville. And then Kenny says, not me, I'm from Memphis. And we have to explain she's our child. We didn't just pick her up. She does go with us. So it holds a very special place in our heart because that's where we spent our first year of marriage. That's where Kenny was born. And we're there for 6 years. And then after that, like everything, you know, what's the next move? And I was happy there. Looking back, you know, now I have the perspective that I can look back and I can say, I had a great situation there. And I had a great position. We had the #1 dominant show. It was a good spot. And all of you could probably do this. You could probably look at this point, you can look back at your career and you can assess things with a different set of eyes than you could, of course, when you were in that situation. But, you know, I was pretty ambitious and I'm thinking, do I want to continue to climb to a bigger market? Do I want to go network? Like I didn't even know that part. So I got an agent and started scoping out all the different things and landed on Denver. That was a great opportunity for me in Denver. So you talk about a leap of faith. We moved to Denver, totally different experience and culture for us. And, you know, even from a news perspective, it was, you know, it's a big market. It was like 17 at the time or something like that. So look at Macon and Denver, and this is like a 6-year span. I felt very fortunate for that. You know, we worked very hard for that and we were there and it was great. It was a good experience. We were there for 2 years. So in that time, we really got to do, like, we made the most of our weekends and we went to all the different parks and did things. So we did like a lifetime of trips in weekends. So for that alone, it was worth it. But in the perspective of looking back, it wasn't what I was looking for. And I was really blinded by, this is market 17. This is, you know, big time, because it was when I went. I did my interview and, you know, I really got caught up in a lot of that. So, you know, it taught me a lot about life and about what my true goals and priorities were. And for us, that was family. And we were all the way on the other side of the country away from our family. And that's very important to us. We're close to our family. Home, being in the South, seeing trees and green things like that. We didn't realize how that culture we were entrenched in. So after 2 years of that, I started thinking about what comes next. Well, I love broadcasting. I love this chapter, but is there something else out there? Because we want to move back closer to home. Right about that time, the company Scripps that owned my station in Denver had a position open up at their station in Nashville. So they started talking to me about it. Now, you remember my goals. I'm a morning anchor in Denver, which was goal number one. I was morning anchor in Memphis as well. And then this opportunity opens up in Nashville. So I'm like, all right, I thought maybe I'm done with TV because I've done some of these things and we're looking to get closer to home, but I'm not. So let's go to Nashville. So we moved to Nashville. We loved our time in Tennessee, and it was great. It was the best decision ever. Out of all my stations, Nashville, when I think of my news career, like I'm thinking of Nashville and Memphis too, but I really think of Nashville. It was an amazing team, number one dominant station, but it wasn't as easy as in Memphis. We had to fight for it every single morning, and that made it fun. We were really like being innovative and being creative and doing all these great things, and I loved it. And we had a lot of really big news stories that happened while I was there. So anyway, we talk about all that a lot, but I loved being in Nashville, really got connected to the community there. We won 3 Emmys while I was there. So, that's that third box, check it off. We did that. So we're very grateful for it. And then I'm happy. Everything's going well. I'm comfortable. I could stay here like 10 more years, 15 years, whatever. But then I had this pull, how some things we just can't explain. And for me, that was family, and that was being home, and that was our daughter. Because Lauren and I knew our ultimate goal was going to be to move back home and invest in our home community in some way, because it's very important to us. And we knew with our daughter, the older she got, it would be harder to make that transition. So all that's just floating around in my head, right? And I'm going to be, this is a small group, so I'm going to be vulnerable with y'all. I was stressed out about things. Where am I going to go? What market am I going to land in? What do I need to do? Every single time when you look at this screen, it worked out. And, I did the work and I put in a little effort and I did my best and I showed up and I was prepared. But it worked out because of something that was beyond me. And to me, that's a big part of my faith testimony as well. But like every single time I stressed out about something, it always worked out. And it was never really I didn't really end up in Denver because of something I specifically did. I ended up because it was the right opportunity, the right time. And I wouldn't have gone to Nashville if I hadn't gone to Denver. And, like all these things really align. And now I have the perspective to look back and see that. And for some of you, you may experience that same thing in your career and in your path and your trajectory. So just look back. And later in another slide, you're going to see about self-assessments. And I think we really need to take the time sometimes to pause, and our culture and our world is not going to give us a pause. So you have got to make the time and make the space to take a pause and really think about, what am I doing? What has been my journey? Am I on track to go where I want to go? Because if we don't take the time to do that, I'm talking to myself right now because I'm very busy. If we don't take the time to do that, then we may miss the path that we want to be on. We may just end up on the path that makes sense. And like I said, I could have stayed in Nashville for 10 more years, but I came home in 2019 to MC the Georgia 4-H Gala. And my wife and I, as Angela said, I grew up an Oconee County 4-H'er. My first experiences with public speaking were through 4-H. My first experience with goal setting were through 4-H. All this positive youth development, we call it, now I know that term, all that was happening for me as a 4-H'er. And there are a few things I can point to in my life that really put me on the track to accomplishing the goals that I wanted to in life. And that's my family, of course, my grandparents that I mentioned, that experience meant a lot to me. My experience as a 4-H'er and my education. And Georgia College is a big piece of that because I was able to thrive because of my experience at Georgia College. And if I had come to Georgia as an undergrad, I don't know that I would have had that same experience, because to me, Georgia College is the ultimate size. You can be a big fish in a little pond, like Nadir, or you can be a little fish in a big pond, like a lot of people choose to be as well. And that's okay. Everybody finds their strengths and their voice and their confidence and their their individuality and independence in different ways. I think Georgia College is just a prime space to make that happen. So I'm forever grateful for that. That's why I'm so honored to be here today and to do this. And I'm so thankful for it. So Lauren and I had always stayed engaged with 4-H. And, we had a scholarship that we supported every year through 4-H. And I would come back and do some different things like this. But in 2019, I came back and MC the gala, which you see right here, and didn't think anything of it. I go back to Nashville, doing our thing. And then out of the blue, somebody from 4-H calls me and they say, we have this position open up. You probably never thought about leaving news. I know this is a long shot, but I think you would be a good fit for that because, and this is my old boss, and he was a good salesman, obviously. He said, because you tell stories every day, that's what we do. You build relationships every day, that's what we do. And we're in Athens, Georgia, where you're from. And so I'm like, oh, okay. Like this really got my wheels turning because for so long I was thinking, we're going to move home. I'm going to live in Watkinsville. I'm going to commute to Atlanta. I'm going to be working for Home Depot or Racetrack or, one of these big companies based in Atlanta. And I'm going to do communications and external affairs, whatever. Like in my mind, that's what I was probably going to come home for. This was never on my radar. So the more I thought about it, it was like, no, he's right. Like I've been able to achieve what I wanted to in life, partially because of my experience as a 4-H'er. And I'll be in a position where I can go around and tell that story and build relationships that can create that support for a whole new generation of kids that may be able to chase their dreams like me. And I'll be a UGA employee, and I'm going to live in my hometown and be 15 minutes from my office, and I'm going to get football tickets. I'm looking to do all these great things that I never really anticipated. So that comes back to there's a big plan and a big picture, and sometimes you just got to be working hard and showing up, and all these other pieces fall into place. Again, that's not something I cultivated. That's something that came into my path. But this quote I have here, one opportunity used wisely can change your life dramatically. I made the decision, just like with Denver, that was like just making a massive leap of faith. This was the same thing. It was a total change of my life. And you'll see in a few slides, I did not anticipate the magnitude my life was going to change. I was just excited about moving home and something new and not waking up at 1:30 in the morning and not working every holiday. Like I was excited about those pieces, but I didn't anticipate how much my life was going to change. So now we move on to chapter 2. I had 15 years in broadcasting. The average career is 30 years. So I'm considering that chapter 1, act 1, whatever you want to call it. I'm in chapter 2 right now. But you will see in a few slides, most people have 3 chapters. So I don't know what might come next. But we're in chapter 2 right now. So I came back home to be a development officer with the Georgia 4-H Foundation. That was about 4 years ago. But in that time, I've since moved into the executive director's role, which is my boss that hired me. He moved on to something else, and that's the position that I moved into. Georgia 4-H is the premier youth development organization in the state. I just included this so you guys could learn a little bit more about 4-H. We're represented in all 159 Georgia counties. We have a nearly even male-female split. When you look at who makes up 4-H, this is really a reflection and a mirror of the state of Georgia, from a demographic breakdown to where young people are coming from, whether it's urban or rural or non-rural suburban areas. It's really reflective of the state. And we have 5 centers from the mountains to the sea, we say, from Wasiga 4-H Center all the way down to Camp Jekyll. Raise your hand if you've been to one of those centers before in your life. Probably a lot of you guys because you're close by to Eatonton, which is great. And environmental education is a big part of what we do as well. Kim, your kids have probably gone there on a school field trip or something as well. We rent out our facilities and our environmental education programs to schools, and that's a big funding source for us as well. So as the executive director of the foundation, we're the fundraising arm that supports all that great program work for Georgia 4-H. So we have about $11 million budget that we manage every single year that includes our investments. We have 102 endowments that we manage. We have 50 scholarships that we are in the process right now of awarding. So that's kind of been the past few weeks. We've really been in the heat of that. And every county has a 4-H program. And right now, about 55 of those counties have investments with us. So we manage those investments. So maybe as opposed to them having those funds in a CD at a local bank, they hold them with us, and we typically return a better annual interest than the local bank does. So that's one of the advantageous reasons to do that. And then we have events like the George 4-H Gala, Twilight on the Lake, which is kind of a 4-H family reunion that they do at Rock Eagle. We have that coming up in August. We had our gala this past year. We raised $725,000 through our gala, which was the past 3 galas combined. So like, we were blown away by that support. We've just stayed busy. We're having a record year for our foundation. We're already at 110% of our goal for the fiscal year, which ends at the end of June. So we had our 75th anniversary celebration last month. We just did our $4 for 4-H appeal, our annual appeal at the beginning of this week. And through each of those, we raised $100,000 at each of those. So we really just stepped up what we've done in so many ways. And I attribute that to the team that we have in place. And out of all this stuff, and we talk about fundraising, and I love the challenge and the problem solving around that and the building relationships, but it's all about the team. I love, love, love leading this team and empowering them and finding their unique skill sets and, you know, all these different things. And I think one of the greatest things are those relationships that you build on the team. When I came in as the leader, job number one was not anything to do with fundraising. It was about how does everybody on this team feel like they have a place and feel like they're operating at the highest level. And I attribute that to my experience in news, because it was all about those relationships and it was all about that newsroom culture. So anyway, everything happens for a reason, and all these things have lined up to put me in this spot right now. And I think that's really exciting to think about. So as I mentioned, the average person changes careers 3 times in their life. That's according to Wharton. I don't know that. They did research. I'm assuming they're right. That's pretty good business school. So that sounds right. We're going to go with that. But when you think about people you know, that's pretty true. In my experience, it is. Now, our parents, my mom was a teacher for 30 years. My dad was a builder for 30 years. Like, our parents' generation of people went into a career and they stayed in that career. And there was not a lot of movement. That was just a different culture of that time. But now it's a little different. This is like an interactive opportunity for us. How many times have you all changed careers, let's say? And I consider what I did a big career change. That's not just like a job change from this department to this department. Like, have any of you experienced a career change? And if so, how many would you say you've experienced so far? All right. Angela said 4. She's proven the point. Kim went from Chili's to, I should have included a chili head picture on my Milledgeville slide. We opened that place, you know, Angela. We were the first group over there. So that dates us. Do you remember that day, Kim? We were all looking out the window because right there, the IHOP beside, somebody had driven off the edge of the parking lot and landed at the light pole on that. You know how steep it is right there.
Oh, yes, it's very
I'll
steep.
never forget that. That was like a crazy thing.
But lots of crazy moments.
Yeah, sure. But all of this, you know, Jared Williams too, and this would be another good speaker. He is the district attorney in Augusta. He worked at Chili's with us, and he is a Georgia College grad. So I reconnected with him this year through Leadership Georgia. So we're everywhere. Bobcats are everywhere. People just don't know. So average 3 times. Maybe it's different depending on regionally, whatever, but in my experience, that's the truth. And the reasons that people change jobs they point to are money and room to grow, burnout, which we learned about last time. And I think there's something to be said for that, because our parents may have been more equipped to do the same thing for 30 years. But maybe for us, I don't know if it's because our attention spans are a little shorter, or we've just been so plugged in with communication in a different way our whole life and the media and whatever else. But I think burnout is real, and we all put a lot of pressure on ourselves because the standard is much more visible now than it ever was for our parents' generation, because we have social media and we have all these different avenues to see something we may aspire to. And I think that makes us put a lot more pressure on ourselves, which plays into this. Apathy at work is one they pointed to, jealousy of other people's jobs. You see other people doing these great things, winning these fabulous bonus trips to the Dominican Republic and whatever else. You're thinking, why don't I get a bonus? Why don't I get commission? You know, and I think that makes people look at other people's situations and then life situation. Now, for me, I'm going to point, I added life situation because that wasn't on here. For me, it was life situation. My wife and I wanted to move back home for the set reasons that I expressed. And that's what motivated me to leave news. And, you know, I think life situation can be different for everyone. For some people, that's help. Maybe they have a parent that needs help and they need to move somewhere else. And that's very real too. And as our parents are living to be older, I think we're going to see more of that as remote work becomes possible. I think that may change the landscape a little bit. So what do you guys think about this? I mean, does this look like a pretty thorough list? Is there something that someone else would add to this? I agree. I think it's a good list. So we'll go. Well, you have something, Angela?
I do. I was just going to say, I think some people leave their job because they want to be challenged, right? Yeah. When you've been in a job for so long, you're comfortable. And I guess some people could equate that to burnout, but I was not burned out in my teaching job. I loved teaching and I miss it. But when somebody presented a new job opportunity to me, it was, why not? Let's see what that looks like. So I think that's another area that people want to try something different. The adventure of life.
That's a really good thought, because this is not apathy, so I don't want to tie it to that. But even with me, like, I had done the same thing for like almost 15 years, you know, and you really get in a routine. I'm going to bed at 7, I'm getting up at 1:30, I'm working Christmas, you know, like I was really in a routine. And the idea of going into a completely new field where it was a challenge was really exciting to me. And it was like crazy. I took a pay cut. I did, you know, like people look at, and now my team that I work with now, they were like, when we found out you were coming, we were so concerned. We didn't know if you were getting fired. We didn't know what. And now I'm like, I know how that, I mean, it really could look like I was like, needed to find something to do or whatever, but I wasn't worried about that. I was just wanting to move home. I was wanting to take on a new challenge. And, you know, I think that's a really good point, and I can respect that. And also, and I'm going to say this, and this is dumb too, so don't take this for what it's worth. It is free advice. I never took a job based on money, ever. My very first job in Macon, I made $18,000 a year. Like, that was nothing, which is, for reporters at that time, that was the standard. And I felt lucky that I was living in my home state, and I wasn't like some of these people having to move across the country to do that, you know? So that weeds people out. Your next job, that doubles it. You know, I mean, you start to work your way up. And by the time I was in Nashville, you know, I was in a great situation, but that's not what it was about to me. And I didn't make a decision based on money, because if I had made a decision based on money, I would still be in Nashville, you know? But I made the decision because it was best for my life and my family. And that has since worked itself out. You know what I'm saying? So because I didn't focus on that, it's worked itself out, again, outside of my control. So all good points. So where to start with your career change? And I almost taught my right-hand man that I work with, who I think the world of. I was going to tell him to jump on, and I was like, no, I don't want him to hear all this. So if you're thinking about a career change, maybe where should we start? What should we do? And, you know, I think this is healthy for everybody to do. You know, they say, I read in some research for this, this is drastically different from when our parents were in the workforce, but every 2 years, if you're not moving up, you need to move out. And, you know, there's only so many places you can move up, and not everybody wants to move up, and that's okay too. But like, maybe every 2 years, have this self-reflection, have an assessment to really think about, what am I passionate about? People change, their preferences change, their interests change. Am I still aligned there? What will make me excited to get up in the morning to go do this if that's not my situation? I can honestly say right now, like, I'm so excited to go to work every day. And it is a big challenge. And there's a lot of pressure associated, but I'm enjoying that. But before I moved into my current role, I was starting to outgrow that development officer role. I was ready to be in a managerial position, and I was feeling that apathy and all that. And if the opportunity to grow had not opened in that moment, I don't know what that would look like for me right now. I probably wouldn't still be a development officer. You know what I'm saying? So that naturally happens for us. So look at everyone around you. What can you take from other people in their career paths and different roles they're in? What strengths do we have, and what knowledge gaps do we need to fill? We always need to be growing. I told you I'm about to graduate with my master's. I didn't need to get a master's. It's not going to make a bit of difference to my pay. It's not going to do anything like that. But for me, it meant a lot to do it because I'm learning a skill set that I didn't have before. And I think it's going to empower me to do a better job managing in a nonprofit world. And I also believe this is, if you, and Nadir knows this, working in alumni relations, if you can do nonprofit work and if you can do fundraising, I honestly think you can do anything, because that is like the hardest thing. And on our board, we do a lot of board management, and some of those people that have big companies and they have budgets, they just don't understand the nonprofit mentality of you raise it to spend it. Like this is like a flow of resources, and we want to steward those well, and we have investments, and we have a corpus that we want to contribute to, but it's just a different mentality in the nonprofit world. So for me, I had a knowledge gap there that I wanted to grow in. I took that challenge on. So sometimes that doesn't mean leaving your current organization. Can you change or grow within your organization? I told you before I moved into this role, I was in a situation where I was starting to be like, okay, it might be time to grow, because I'm feeling these growing pains. I feel like I need to do that. So I think we need to build on our past to really elevate what we do in the future. And on paper, there is no connection between being a news anchor and being a nonprofit manager or fundraiser on paper. But as I've explained to you, I think that has empowered me every single day. And I could not do the job I do now in the way that I do it if I did not have that experience. So just think about that. How can you come up with those ideas creatively? And how can you build on your past experiences to always keep moving down the road? Any questions or thoughts on this topic before we move on? Do people, one of the things I love about being in a university environment, because we are a unit of the University of Georgia, and I'm a part of the Development and Alumni Relations team. We have a big quarterly DAR meeting. I'm leading that next month. And so, there's a lot of opportunities for resources there. And one of the great things I love about being a part of EGA, there's so many professional development opportunities, and you have to stop and reflect. So you don't even have the choice sometimes. You have to think about, okay, what am I doing? Is this aligning with my mission, with my role, with my personal goals? And so I really like that aspect of being in a university environment. And do you have time to do that, or have you noticed or recognized that within your organizations?
Well, Adam, I was just going to go back to a point you made about the two careers seem seemingly unconnected, but that's the brilliance, right, of what we learned here at Georgia College, and you were mentioning that earlier, is to connect those dots that don't seemingly seem connected, right? Like the two careers, I'm sure that there are skill sets between the both of them that you were able to capitalize on and use. So I love hearing stories of when people change from one thing to something totally different, and they're able to connect those dots and talk about how they could use the skill sets in both of them. So I think that's fabulous.
Awesome. Well, I hope it's the next slide, because that would go. Yes, it is. Way to set that up. I didn't even So at Georgia College, we are fortunate, and I think that we should put this on a pedestal and highlight this. We are Georgia's public liberal arts university. That sets us apart from every other school. We are a very special place. We all know Georgia College is a special place, but this quantifies that, right? I mean, this shows why we are different and unique. And of course, I looked up I trust the people, the great people at Princeton, and they say a liberal arts education offers expansive intellectual grounding in all kinds of humanistic inquiries. And I remember when we were at orientation, Mike Augustine, I'll remember this until I die. We're at the orientation, and they're going through everything. We're at Russell Auditorium, and this is when this song was popular by Fat Joe called Lean Back. And we all get it. He's like, all right, everybody stand up. We need to we've been sitting there. He's like, stand up. And you know, Mike, he's so straight laced and he's like, everybody stand up. We need to stretch, lean back, lean back. And it just stuck out to me because I was like, all right, this is not what I expected him to say. But I remember at that session, I don't know if it's him, somebody said, the whole idea of your liberal arts education here is so that you can go to a dinner party and you can talk to every single person around that table, no matter what walk of life they have, no matter what they do for a living. You're going to have a little bit of information that can help you make a connection with that person. When I tell you that is literally my job, I do that. I mean, that is what I do. I meet people. I learn about their interest area. I learn about what they're passionate about, and then I find alignment between their interests and our priorities. That's what I do in fundraising every single day. But because of this differentiated skill set that I received at Georgia College, I've been able to pursue these different career paths. And I've been able to be a journalist, but also turn around and do nonprofit work because I have a background in all of those areas because of my liberal arts education. So it's so connected. I mean, it's totally connected right there. And I can't say enough about that. And this next one really is just kind of a chart to show the different 5 areas that those focus on. And when you look at this, Georgia College is setting up students for success no matter what field they go into. Because when you look at an organization or the type of people that they want to employ as employees and employers one day, it's all about these: organizing, creating, leading, learning, relating. And one thing that's not on here but should be is collaborating. Every single thing we do right now professionally, and I'm telling you as somebody who works in fundraising, you have ideas of that and what that would be like, and you're fighting over donors and you're trying to get the prospects before the other people. We have created such a culture of collaboration here at UGA in Development and Alumni Relations that it's not just about how many meetings can I get this month. It's about how many collaborations can I have this month. On our chart that they send out every single day with all the money and totals that have been raised, there's now a column for collaborated money. So if I work with the College of Ag on a gift, we're both going to get credit for that, and that's going to show up in our collaboration column. And I think that has done so much, and that's just my experience. But the dear what you do and everybody else listening too, we have to work together to advance what we're doing. And when we collaborate, we identify that crossover. And liberal arts, that's the place to identify crossover because there is so much. So I just wanted to point that out to say your Georgia College education has equipped you for versatility and change. Nowhere in my life, if you had gone back to Adam 10 years ago, I never would have been like, oh yeah, I'm gonna be a fundraiser. I'm gonna work in nonprofit management. Never would have thought that. But I've been able to successfully make that transition because of my background. So now I can be a spokesman for that because I've lived it. I wanted to put that sentence in there. One of the things that I did want to talk about before we wrapped up is the challenges of a career transition. Because when I made this decision, and I'm so fortunate that I remember my teacher, it was one of my mass comps, I don't remember her last name. She was a lay professor. She worked maybe at the Telegraph or something like that. But she taught us, and she said in class one day, I don't remember what class it was, some mass comp, she said, you're not really a journalist until you get arrested or get fired. And I was like, oh my God.
Was that Sonia Barnes?
Sonia Barnes, that was it. I was like, I can't
Love her.
I can't do either one of those. So I may never be a journalist because I can't do that. So I can fortunately say that never happened to me. But I made the decision to leave a successful career in broadcasting. And I never anticipated, because I thought, I'm making this decision. It's on me. I'm deciding to leave. I'm going home. That's what I want to do. I'm going to raise my daughter around family. That's what I want to do. I'm not working every Thanksgiving now. That's what I want to do. But I never anticipated the transition that was ahead of me for probably a year and a half. I'm not going to lie. And I'm just going to be vulnerable and say that because I know everybody else has maybe experienced something like that. And if you haven't, you might. Because of these reasons that Forbes magazine has listed out. And I say them because I relate to those. You're heading into something that's uncertain and that can be scary. For me, it wasn't scary, it was exciting, but that still created an anxiety within me that I wasn't acknowledging, because it was there. It was just like below the surface. You're letting go of your identity. Now, for me, that was like not something I ever anticipated, because when you're the news anchor in Nashville or whatever, you get used to being the news anchor in Nashville, and then you're not. And it's just a change of pace. It's just a change of pace. It's not good or bad. It's just a change of pace. You know what I'm saying? I went from a newsroom, if any of you have worked in newsrooms, it's very fun and like, it's loud. People are, kind of crass sometimes, whatever, it's just a different environment. And every day I was 2 feet away from my co-anchor for 4 hours. Like we were close. And then I came to my office and I was by myself. Like it's just a different feel. So I was not ready for that. And doing something new can shake your confidence and self-esteem. And so I didn't really realize until there was excitement and newness for like 6 months. And then after 6 months, I was like, okay, this is like a brand new life and a brand new pace and a brand new, like I wasn't expecting any of this at all. So I just say that to say, I came around to the idea of like, this is my new life, but I wasn't expecting to feel that way because it was my decision, if that makes sense. But everybody may experience something in that way. So what are some of the things you can do to cope with that? I think looking back, I can say, one of my favorite quotes, John Adams, every problem is an opportunity in disguise. This is not necessarily a problem, but it is potentially a challenge. So how can you make that an opportunity? And for me, I grew so much out of that. And it showed me the biggest thing may be that I'm not my career. I am a person, I'm a father, I'm all these different things that is not a news anchor. So before I may have just been thinking, I'm a news anchor, that's what I do. But through that, it's shown me that I'm so much more than just that. So acknowledge it, admit that that's half the battle. Be honest with yourself and have a plan. And this comes back to that check-in and allow yourself the opportunity to feel that loss. I didn't do that because I didn't think it was a loss. I just thought this was my decision, I'm moving on, but it was still a loss. And it was still something that I should have acknowledged as being a big part. And now I can. Now I'm like, oh, that's such an awesome part of my life. And, at first I didn't want to talk about it. I was like, okay, I'm done with that. That's part of my life. It's in the past. And that's the way I handled it. And I was really very much like moving on. But still to this day, 4 years later, that's what people want to talk to me about. And they want to ask if they can hold my Amy. And, they want to do these different things. And so I'm much more acknowledging of that chapter. And it's still a big part of who I am and what my story is. So give yourself time to do that transition. Find a mentor partner that you could talk through situations with this. And I say find a mentor, but maybe even a mentee, because I'm a mentor guy who just graduated from UGA last year. It has been the biggest blessing in my life. I had breakfast with him this morning, actually, and I've just been able to talk through life situations with him. Some of this stuff we're talking about today, I've been able to talk through with him, and it's been awesome. But I've learned just as much about myself, and it's been such an outlet for me to collect my thoughts so that I can share them with him. So I can't say enough about that. And I don't know if Georgia College has Georgia College may even have a mentor program. I hope you guys do. If not, that'd be an awesome thing. So I can't say enough about that. And then celebrate wins too. Like I remember vividly in 6 months, my first 6 months, I'd have these huge fundraising challenges on me, some donor challenges, whatever. And I would tell Lauren, like, I'm not a fundraiser. I'm a news anchor. I'm a news anchor. I'm not a fundraiser. I'm having a hard time with this. There was a switch, and I don't know when, but there was a switch where, well, I am a fundraiser. I'm doing a good job as a fundraiser. You know what I'm saying? Like, you got to celebrate those opportunities and wins when they come, because that's when you start to reaffirm yourself, or you do that self-reflection. You can say, I have made progress. As I mentioned, I'm on the school board. I'm doing different things. The past couple of months have been really crazy for me. And I can honestly say, I'm just loving it. It's been fun, because when my head hits the pillow at night, Dateline's our nighttime story, Long Term's on Dateline. I just think about the things that I'm getting to do, or things I've dreamed about and I hoped for one day. And I am close to my family, and I'm about to graduate, and all these different things. I'm trying to celebrate those different parts of the day. Like, you did a hell of a lot today. And there's some people out there who couldn't have done those things. You have to think about that. I know we have 3 minutes, so I'm going to zoom through this last part. The last part is something that it's just kind of a little motivational piece. And I do this when I work with 4-Hers and different groups and everything. And it's all about attitude and the power of choice, because that plays into every single thing we talked about. And I think that ties up what we're doing. If you want to change the world, which all of us do, because Georgia College taught us how to give back, you got to start with yourself. And that comes from your attitude and your power of choice. Og Mandino, if you've read The Greatest Secret in the World, which is I love, he said, nothing is greater than your power of choice. Every decision you make in life leads you towards success or failure, however you define those terms. That is so true. And we can have little setbacks, but we have an idea of success in our life. That is something. Picture that. Every decision we make, whether it's to lose weight, which my doctor said I need to do, whether it's to lose weight, quit smoking, whatever the case may be, that's your goal. And every single little thing you do in the day or the week or the month is taking you closer or further away from that. And also, our biggest power of choice is the way we choose to look at the world. And I love this meme because, you know, it speaks for itself. So much of our happiness is how we choose to look at things. And, you know, all this dude in the green shirt has to do, you know, we love green at 4-H, so I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. All he has to do is stand up, change his perspective, and move to the other side and sit down and live his best life, like this lady taking a picture of the beautiful day. So I know that's cheesy. I just want to end with that because to me, that just encapsulates everything we've been talking about. I did it within an hour. Are there any questions? Please have a question. I'm so excited for this opportunity to talk to you guys, and I'm excited to answer any questions.
Well, I will just quickly say thank you so much for that. That was fabulous, Adam. I know you mentioned chapter 3. So what are your thoughts about chapter 3?
Woo! I want to be on the school board, and I want, you know, I'm like thinking about the immediate right now. And usually I am a long-term thinker, I really am, but my life is so intense right now that I'm like, long-term is June 1st. So that's kind of what I'm looking at. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. I've learned every single step of my journey. I've learned so much. Moving from development officer into this executive director role, and I've been doing this for about 2 years, I've learned so much. And I also feel like our team has been able to rally and implement new strategies. And we've restructured the way we have our funds and our accounts. These are all kind of back-end things we've done as well. And I think we've set up the foundation for like long-term success. And, you know, at a certain point, we all need fresh ideas and our organizations need fresh ideas. But right now, I feel like I'm able to contribute something and I'm in a positive way and we're growing what we're doing. But there could be a time where there needs to be newer ideas to even further advance it. And so, you know, I think about that from a big organizational culture as well. So I don't know is the answer to that question, but I love making a difference. I love being in this environment, and I just am excited to give back to Georgia College in this way or any other way possible. So I'm excited for that too.
Well, thank you. Thank you. This has been great.
Can I shout out my email real quick in case anybody
Yes,
has?
absolutely.
Yes.
Hammond,
Adam.Hammond, HAMMOND, @UGA.edu. I'm happy to answer any kind of questions or give any kind of feedback or whatever. Just let me know. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate this time.
Thank you. Thanks so much, everyone.
Thank you. I enjoyed it. Good perspective.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Adam, thank you so much. And we appreciate our guests joining us today. I would like to make an announcement that our next Georgia College and State University Alumni Lifelong Learning Series speaker will be LL Purcell, who is here with us today. It will be on May 14th at 12 o'clock, and she's going to talk about being agile in the workplace. So LL, we are looking forward to that. We are grateful for your time. Adam, thank you again so much for being here with us. Nadira, any last thoughts?
No, and I was just going to say, as you think of friends in your spheres of influence that you know would benefit from this, please let them know that soon we will have these series posted on our YouTube site and we'll share that information out. So if there's folks that, you know, wanted to be here today that missed it, as long as we have your permission, Adam, we will share and post that. And we're hoping to just build a series, a virtual series that they could come and watch a library of the virtual series. So we're glad to have you. Thanks for joining us too, Dr. Gardner. Good to see you. And we're just so thankful for the partnership with you and COSPS, Angela. And hope everyone has a fantastic remainder of the week.